to Maxime Lapine from Peterbilt, date May 2nd. Contract mining work. So simply put, everyone always tells me that you can't do placer mining on a contract basis because people just steal the gold. So that's entirely possible. Nuggets can easily be grabbed, right? But what's a lot harder to grab is like fine gold. So, especially if it comes out in a black sand or something like this. All this to say that the production that we would be getting out of a high banker, if we went and dug up dirt and ran it to see what we got, to pay, the concentrate we get from that surface work would not be easy for us to just take and call gold, take it to the bank and be like, oh, this is my gold, because it's not, finished or separated fully. Yeah, it's potentially a bunch of, dirt in with it still that we haven't been able to clear off. So it would be very hard for us to steal without stealing the whole thing, and then cleaning it up's a hassle. So I'm not saying it can't happen, but I'm saying that, it's a lot of work to steal it. Whereas if the arrangement is for the surface crew to take the concentrated pay dirt that comes off the high banker and surface and non-mechanized mining, take that stuff underground or wherever the HCC mining crew is at and give it to them, because they're doing stuff underground that concentrates gold. And it's equipment that we don't need to buy because they have it and they know how to use it. We just need to feed it. So if we see any nuggets, we can, do whatever with those. But all this gold that needs to be refined, or this material that needs to be refined to just gold nuggets, it's a lot of work. It's not stuff that we want to be off to do. The reason we don't want to do it requires equipment, time, energy, and it's a good thing to do in greater quantity at a centralized location. You don't want to double up on that. That equipment sits idle a lot of the time, I believe. And if it doesn't, hopefully HCC mining has the ability to invest in more of that so that it's not the bottleneck in their system. I would think that really the mining face is the bottleneck for HCC at the wing dam because of this ground freezing stuff that they have to do, underground development. It's a bit of a production. Be very interesting to see what they're able to do, but I do believe the bottleneck is the mine face, because the underground work required to get there is very substantial, and as I understand it, they're doing a narrow vein mining program almost. It's a narrow vein mining program with low clearance, I think too. I think I don't know what they're doing for mucking, but the dope that, that they're mining out, I think it's, a meter high or less. I think it's too small for a person to fit into. I think it's some wedge, some block they take out, that's rather narrow and quite long, and then they drill down or do some are they doing blasting through the surface material? How are they dealing with it underground? I have no idea, right? I literally don't know the engineering of the underground work right now. And you know what? It doesn't matter, because all I'm talking about doing is surface work, non-mechanized mining, crew of 5 guys or less going out with shovels and a sluice box, try and see what they can get. The reality is it's a lot of work to get the gold out of it, but we can do one intermediary step that's high impact, and that is running gold through sluice and then concentrate, dumping out the sluice in a bin and taking bins full of rock to the HCC site underground at the mine face, where they're producing however much gold they're going to produce. My estimate was like 10 million for Omanika, which meant like, I don't know, 25 million total gold production. Like 10,000, 1,000 ounces, 10,000 ounces. 10,000 ounces, 2.5 thousand. Yeah, that's 10,000 ounces in phase 1, 300 meters. Like, they've got some numbers like that, and they're big numbers. It's like, who knows? 10,000 ounces, that's a lot of material. It's a lot of gold. It's a lot of gold to work with. What's the surface non-mechanized work going to be? 1,000 ounces? At $2,500 an ounce gold is $2.5 million. How much work would it cost us to do by hand with the crew to get 1,000 ounces? I don't know, what's your grade? 5 grams per ton? What's that? Like, more than 1/8 of an ounce a ton? Maybe you get 1/6 of an ounce, 5 grams? Get 1/6 of an ounce a ton? One over 6, 0.15. You need 6 tons to get an ounce of gold production. How do you work 6 tons at surface? 6 tons is maybe 3 cubic meters. The material is pretty light, isn't it? 2.0 specific gravity. Call it 3 cubic meters. What's that? 1 meter by 1 meter by 3 meters. It's a lot of dirt. It's a lot of dirt to dig. Up to your legs. Up to your legs across, and then 3 meters wide, taller than you, like you and me standing on each other, half, a little bit, and then not at all, whatever, 3 meters, it's not, well, maybe it is, you and I standing on each other, maybe that's 3 meters, that's a lot of dirt to dig, and to put through a sluice box, and handle, and then to take, to screen the sluice boxes. That's kind of a crazy thing. I don't know how long it would take you to do that. Like 1 day? How many days could you do that in a row? If that's 3 meters cubed, and you're talking about 1,000 ounces, 6,000 tons. 6,000 tons is a lot, right? To do by hand. But if you're getting 1/6 of an ounce per ton, that's what it takes to get 1,000 ounces. So 6,000 tons. Again, call it 3,000 cubic meters. It's not, don't think, 3,000 cubic meters. Say you're digging 1 meter deep and you're digging 10 meters wide, then you have to drill 300 meters long. 10 meters wide is like the height of a building. You have to drill 300, you have to dig 300 meters long. That is an unbelievable distance to have to dig all of that dirt and put it through a sluice box with a 5-person crew. It's an unheard of amount of work. It's silly to even be talking about it. But that's what it would take to do 3,000 cubic meters, 6,000 tons, 1/6 of an ounce ton, 5 grams of gold. Maybe you get 8, maybe you get 10. Maybe you get 10 grams of gold per ton, and you need a lot less of dirt. Maybe you get an ounce a ton of dirt. Imagine that. Imagine you dig surface above where the guys are mining underground, you get an ounce a ton. Like, that's not even how placer gold miners measure their return. And that would be a very unusual result to get at surface. And the potential to be able to repeat that or expand that for 1,000 ounces is like pretty unreasonable. You're gonna have a hard time finding many places that'll give you 1,000 ounces by hand in a season. It's unheard of, but it's possible. And if not 2.5 million, you know, at least 250,000, right? 100 ounces? 100 ounces? How many days do you need? 100 days? An ounce a day? Good luck. 5-person crew that doesn't know what to do? Can't do it. But it's possible. You know, ounce a day? An ounce a day gold production from a non-mechanized placer crew. You'd have to have such rich ground. It would be unheard of. You'd need to have like an unbelievable amount of gold in the ground to be able to find a place like that. Might exist in the Caribou up above the Wingdom. It might. And there's only one way to find out, basically. And highly unlikely that it's so rich, but if it is, you know, just doing the surface sluice work adds value to the whole project. How do you afford it? Who does it? How do you do it safely? There's a lot I don't know. I need help. Just figure out, like, is this legal? How do you do this in a compliant employment law dimension? Couldn't tell you. But, you know, what's the cost of that? Probably quite a lot. Probably cost prohibitive, really, you know, to do on a small basis. But, might not be. Imagine if you can do it on a profitable basis. You can split the profit with Ominika mining. Lightning Creek? Lightning Creek's pretty good. It might be rich enough to give that kind of pay at surface. Turn a profit to a crew. Not even just a crew, 2 guys. 2 guys, 3 guys, 5 people. You have a crew of girls on the ads for some of these websites for the sluice, the high banker sluice box. Some of them, man, the ads have pictures of girls working the machine. There's one picture with a crew of 3 girls, and it's just great. It's totally true. Anybody, you know, like, these are really easy things for, you know, for people to do. It's hard work, but it's physical work that anyone can do, you know, in proportion to their body and their strength and just their human labor power, work power is like enough to move some dirt around. Is it at all possible that they will ever find any gold in it? I don't know, but that's the gamble. And so the whole premise of this business is that you put money in one end and you take gold out the other. And the way you try and do that is finding some ground that you know to be rich and working it. And finding some way to work it in a legal and morally, you know, correct way. It's quite simple. And I think Ominika Mining is doing it, and I want to be involved in working their ground at surface. So let's do that. And maybe, again, let's find, I think it's a supervision scenario in contract workers too, right? All you need, man, you hire a crew of 5 guys. Imagine you hire a crew of 5 guys from Cornell, pay them $500 a day each to go out and dig dirt for like 12 hours. How much rock, how much dirt could they move? How much, you know, like probably not, who knows? That's all it takes. You You got to capitalize it and do it. You can do it yourself with a bit of your own back-breaking labor if you're a goof or a sucker for punishment. But if you really want to do it in the way that like makes the most sense, you frame it as a gambling scenario where you get investors who put money up, even 50 grand. You know, you're spending $2,500 a day. That's 20 days. You find somebody who put up 50 grand Canadian to fund an initial program of placer work. 5 guys working under supervision at surface doing non-mechanized mining at the Omanika site. You know, where it's a private company doing it on a carry basis for Omanika. Private companies financed with some risk capital, it found, and there's a crew of people who are working as the supervisors for the Omanika the Omanika JV or whatever you call it, for the surface surface non-mechanized placer work. Don't call it mining. Don't call it ore. It's just a carried interest. Omanika, the public company, has some private company that's like, hey, can we work the surface rights and split the profits with you? So what happens is the surface crew goes and works it, and then they clear out their mats. When they wash their mats in big bins to collect the gold, they take what comes in those bins down to the HCC mining guys as contract miners who can clean up that gold for the surface contractors. So to be honest, the private company under contract actually like knows less potentially about the gold that's being produced, because, you know, if HCC adds our feed, that surface feed to some other, you know, underground feed, then maybe it's hard to tell exactly how much gold is produced from the surface stuff. I don't know if it's possible to run that stuff, if there'd be enough of it to run it separately, and what exactly would happen. So everyone's concerned about, oh, you know, you can never do mining crews, placer projects, because they say, oh, the mining crew will steal the gold. Well, I'll debunk that, because the mining crew can't always steal the gold, because sometimes the gold, you don't give them enough equipment to be able to refine it down to something they could profitably steal. So in this case, the equipment that they need is like a finer table to gravity separate or something, whereas all they're getting is the gold, the rough gold with fine dirt and other things right out of the sluice mats. That's all. So that's a deterrent to theft. People can still steal nuggets, but not necessarily. So you use that deterrent and you do a supervision scheme, and then you find the investor for that $50,000 risk capital to do an initial 20-day campaign. And the potential return for that investment is half of all the gold produced for those investors, right? With Omanika getting the other half. So the question becomes, can you produce more than $100,000 of gold in 20 days of mining with a 5-day crew? 20 days, $100,000. That's $5,000 a day, which is more than you're paying them. You're paying them $500 a day each. So if they're each producing $1,000 a day in gold, then it's a profitable venture on an operating basis for the contractors, like a 2 times profit margin. And they may never know that, the contractors, because they don't actually see how much gold gets made, because it goes to Omanika's gravity table. But the private company who started the whole surface work would likely be privy to that information. The supervisors who are supervising the field crew doing the digging 12 hours a day, they could, they would have access to that information, presumably from Hominica, detailed about actual gold production, because they need to be in charge of the finances of the special purpose vehicle to begin with, right? So that is a question mark. The break even is a pretty aggressive $1,000 a day net gold production for this case on a 20-day campaign of surface work. Can you produce $1,000 a day? So that's less than half an ounce of gold, which is in this case maybe 10, 12, 13, 14 grams of gold per day. 12 grams of gold, say, per day, 12-hour shifts. Talk about a gram of gold per hour. This is your hurdle rate for production on the placer operation. And a gram of gold an hour is probably highly unrealistic. Not something you can achieve in most cases. The question is, can you achieve it at Lightning Creek? Presumably you can, because the wing dam is so rich, but the reality is nobody really knows. So that's why it's a risk capital question in the first place. But the potential to make more than a gram of gold an hour and turn a profit, that's what I would calculate as your one of your basic hurdles to do it. Just a gram of gold an hour. You got to get more than that for the whole thing to pay. Bigger question is potential for them to be 10 grams an hour. Could you ever get to a scenario where a group of 5 guys is mining 10 grams gold an hour out of surface non-mechanized placer claims? Like, that would be unwieldy. If they could sustain that for 12 hours a day for 20 days, that would be an unreal amount of gold. 10 times break even production rates. I don't know if there's any reason to believe that this project could have that much gold, but it could have 2 times, 3 times, probably pretty easily. Like, you could probably turn a profit mining this spot. And if you can prove that you can turn a profit mining it, then you should do so, and you should take it as a test case to investors and say, look, we have existence, we've gone 0 to 1, help us go 1 to 100. Do this again, do this on a securitized basis where the net returns are in physical gold, right? So the other condition for the private company itself is to have again, potential to do it again and again, profitable basis, repeatedly, contract basis. It's a great gamble for gold investors. Most ground you wouldn't want to do it on, or without assuming really, really high risk of loss. But at safe plays like Ominika Wing Dam project, like the project, it's like so good that most of the time you'd pay for the right to work it, and the best way to pay for it is on a carry basis. You don't have to do an option where you put any cash up to work the ground. You just carry the partner. If you can do that, that's a great way to start.